Hello, welcome to Silent Hill History Tours. If you're here today, which you are of course, you must have an interest in the very special town that is Silent Hill. Can I have a name, please, just to confirm that you are in fact the person that booked this tour? Better safe than sorry, I always say. Okay, thank you. Let me see here. Let's see. Today's date and time. Yep, that's you, alright. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for coming to the designated meeting location. Now, you're the only person who booked a tour today, so you're extremely lucky, because that means that this tour will be a very personal one for you. As you can see from the welcome sign behind me, we're right on the outskirts of town. So, what we're going to get into today is we're going to enter, and I'm going to walk you around and give you some insight to the history of this special place, including some of the creepy conspiracies surrounding it, which of course I'm sure you've heard of. I hope you put on your walking shoes today because there's going to be a lot of that today. Also, if you ever need anything, water, food, etc., just say so. I've loaded my backpack with anything you might need to ensure an enjoyable tour. A little background on me: I grew up in South Ashfield, which is about half a day's drive from here, but I had older family members that were born and raised in Silent Hill. Not only that, but my parents used to bring me here for vacations, so it's always been a point of interest for me. I've done years upon years of research and studying, so I've been certified as a historian for Silent Hill. And I figured, hey, why not offer to pass on the rich history to anyone else who's interested? It's pretty much a ghost town now, so we shouldn't be bothered too much. It'll be a nice, quiet time. Let's see, any safety guidelines before we go in? Let's see. Well, first of all, just stick close with me. It can be very easy to get lost in this town due to its mysterious, dense fog. And secondly, I will be covering some topics that are somewhat disturbing and could potentially be upsetting, specifically death, religion, and the mistreatment of children. Yeah, the history surrounding this place isn't exactly the brightest. I at least want to give a warning before we get started, but that's pretty much it. Stay close to me and be prepared for sensitive topics. Okay, enough introduction. I know what you're here for. You know what you're here for. With that being said, let's get started. Onward we go. So, to give a summary of the layout of this very large place, Silent Hill has two main districts, Paleville and Southvale. There are a couple of other smaller districts such as Pleasant River and Hillside, but we'll be skipping over them since they're not as significant. We're currently entering Paleville, more specifically Old Silent Hill, which has Midwich Elementary, Balkan Church, Cafe 5-2, and a lot of residential housing. Across the Toluca River is Central Silent Hill, which has the town center, Alchemilla Hospital, or Alchemia, depending on how you pronounce it, Cedar Grove Sanitarium, and much more. This used to be quite the busy, exciting place. They had pretty much everything here. On the north side of Toluca Lake is Lakeview Hotel and Lakeside Amusement Park, both extremely popular attractions, or they were when the town was still active. And on the south side of the lake is the other district, Southvale. Over there is Rosewater Park, Brookhaven Hospital, Pete's Bolorama, Heaven's Night, and many other recreational businesses. Like I said, Silent Hill is a big area with a lot of tourism built into it. Despite it being so tourist-based, it somehow managed to keep a rural feel to it. Alrighty, so now on to the history of this beautiful yet strange location. Feel free to look around as we walk and I explain everything. Just about every building and store that you'll see is family owned and has been here for a very long time. So Silent Hill's history goes very far back, even before England's colonization of America. During this time, the local tribes referred to this area as the place of silenced spirits. I bet you can already see the correlation between that name and the current one. Now, when they said silenced spirits, they didn't just mean the deceased. They meant spirits of everything. Spirits that inhabited the nature around them, trees, water, and so forth. For a very long time, the entire land was heavily considered to be very spiritual, with an air that has a very odd, strong power. Many different rituals and ceremonies were done here, mainly because they believed this to be a holy place with the power to fuel their activities. One tribe referred to it as the Nest of the Raven, relating to the deity that they worshipped. They believed that the raven held power and control over memory. On the battleground of war, the raven was referenced with those who fell, basically asking them to rewrite the events of the battle, granting victory to those who were defeated. And because of this, historians of the tribes used raven feathers to record important events. They thought that doing this would allow them to have control over the past and future of their people. In the early 1600s, it was then that the British would arrive and start the colonization of America. However, it wasn't until the late 1600s that settlers would arrive here and force the many tribes away from this land. But this marks the start of many, many odd events. At the turn of the century, in the early 1700s, a massive epidemic swept through the area, killing a very large portion of the population. Because of this, the settlement would be abandoned and stayed that way for the rest of the century. It wasn't until the 1800s that resettlement began in the Toluca Lake area. These settlers were a bit different, mainly because they believed in manifest destiny. But believe me when I say, them settling on this land was writing them a new destiny. And it's safe to say, it wasn't pretty. This is when they officially named the town Silent Hill. During this time, they'd established a prison and hospital, both of which are standing to this day, that being Brookhaven Hospital. But tragedy would strike again as another epidemic would come, leading to the deaths of many. It was indeed a very dark time for the town, but unlike last time, they held out. In 1816, the Gillespie Coal and Iron Company established the Devil's Pit Mine, which isn't too important, but the name Gillespie will be extremely notable in just a bit. Around the 1850s, a coal field was discovered, which, as you might expect, led to the opening of a coal mine. This, of course, sparked a large surge of interest in the town, specifically its economy, and pretty much revived it. In 1861, when the Civil War broke out, Toluca Prison was built for prisoners of war, which was later turned into a correctional facility once the war ended. It wasn't until the late 1900s that it would be closed down for reasons unknown, and the Silent Hill Historical Society was built on the former site. Personally, I'm pretty sure that the prison closed due to flooding since it was right next to Toluca Lake, but nobody knows for sure. When I started doing these history tours, I originally planned to have them start there, at the Historical Society, but I decided it would be better to start them at the entrance of town, but no worries, we will pass the Historical Society later. Anyways, back on track. So around 1890, another unexplained event began. Mysteriously, without any logical explanation, people began to disappear. They would vanish without a single trace, and they were never found. But it was the 20th century that brought a massive spike of unnerving and once again unexplained events to this quiet little town, if you can call it that at this point. A certain cult, known as the Order, started to gain a lot of popularity. They were a religious extremist cult, obsessed with their own version of doomsday. Despite becoming extremely well known and practically influencing a lot of power, they kept their terrible deeds and practices in the shadows. Their whole vision was to bring the return of their god in order to reach paradise, which they believed was a place of eternal happiness. Despite all that, their methods of achieving this were quite the opposite of happy. They committed murder, torture, and did unspeakable things to many children. Some of these deeds were even done by parents of the children, hoping that their child's sacrifice would bring their god. At one point, they even had an orphanage called the Wish House, where they would induct orphaned children into the cult. And somehow these terrible, disgusting rituals managed to be conducted in secret. But we'll come back to them later. In 1911, it was reported that coal miners discovered unrecognizable and eerie symbols carved into the walls of the mines. This led to speculation about the occult and witchcraft, but it certainly didn't stop there. There was a series of accidents in those mines and harrowing reports of creatures inside of them, which forced the Gillespie Coal and Iron Company to suspend any mining operations there. In 1918, one of the first notable tourist accidents occurred, where a ship called the Little Baroness vanished, along with all crew and passengers aboard it. Many other strange occurrences happened on that lake, which gave the town a poor sightseeing reputation. But that wouldn't be the end of it. The later half of the 20th century would see many more deaths. At one point, staff members who were part of a company promoting tourism were found dead with no proper explanation. They were ruled as accidents, but it's unknown how close or far the deaths were with each other. These deaths were quite the talk for a while, with a lot of people suspecting that the Order was behind them. However, nothing was really proven. After that, things were actually pretty calm for a while. But a girl would be born named Alessa Gillespie, the daughter of Dahlia Gillespie, a member of the Order. This is where the name Gillespie takes great significance. Alessa had a very strong connection to the paranormal, affecting many things around her. In other words, Alessa was believed to be psychic. Now, this next part is a bit blurry, because the facts have been muddied over time, but I'll explain what I've read before. At a young age, and I'm not sure how young, Dahlia attempted a ritual on Alessa, hoping to impregnate her with the seed of their god and have Alessa give birth to it. Yeah, it's pretty gruesome. Apparently, the ritual failed and a fire broke out that burnt down many surrounding buildings, including the one that the ritual was taking place in. They found Alessa's body and reported her dead. However, I've heard many sources say that they actually hid Alessa's body in the basement of Alchemilla Hospital, keeping her alive. I can't say if that's 100% true, but many sources have said that. That's all I know in regards to that. But I do know that when this happened, the town was considered to be cursed, becoming a place that would attract people who held darkness close to their hearts, almost like it would call them here. And it seemed like the odd, thick fog started around that time too. Not too much is known after that. As for the Order, not much is known about them either at this current moment. But I have a very strong belief that some way, somehow, they're still actively doing terrible things beyond human comprehension. People still live and visit here, but it feels more empty than anything. A lot of people think that Silent Hill is a portal to hell, but nothing has really been proven. But at the same time, I feel like a lot more has happened than what's publicly known. I feel like there really is some form of dark, evil energy here. It would make sense with all these supernatural types of events over the years. While there isn't much concrete proof of this being true, there's barely anything that disproves it. I believe that that failed ritual on Alessa awakened something truly sinister. But that's just me. This town could simply just be haunted, but nobody knows for sure. But anyways, that's pretty much the entire history of this peaceful but chilling town. Well, at this point in time, we've made it into central Silent Hill. This division, as I said earlier, has practically every kind of store that you could think of. But southwest from here is Lakeview Hotel and Lakeside Amusement Park, which, as I also mentioned earlier, are probably the biggest attractions around here. Lakeview Hotel has some absolutely gorgeous scenery, a great view no matter what room you're staying in, and some of the most hospitable staff that you will find in the entire state of Maine. Or at least, that's what I remember. Now, the amusement park is the real deal. If you enjoy old-fashioned styled parks, then this one is just for you. They've got roller coasters, fairground types of rides like a carousel, teacups, etc., and even a haunted mansion. In some cases, the haunted mansion is a little cheesy, but in other cases it can give you a bit of a jolt if you're not on your toes. But either way, the whole park is a really good pick if you're ever looking for some family fun. But anyways, now that you have all of the historical information, we can head on over to... What the fuck? I don't even know what to say. The whole road is cut off. Like, there's just nothing but an abyss from here. It's just gone. I've never seen it like this before. When did this happen? It's probably just a very large sinkhole. Probably nothing to worry about too much. We can turn around and we can take a detour to the Historical Society. That's where we were gonna go. But yeah, we can just take a detour and... what the hell? Is that a siren? Oh shit. Run. Don't think. Just follow me and run.